My daughter forgot to hang up the phone. I heard it. It's time for him to go to a nursing home. He's a burden. I didn't say a word, but something inside me broke that very second. By the time they came home from their business trip, smiling and carefree, the keys wouldn't fit the front door, a note on the doorstep, one look at it, and they started screaming. But I knew this was only the beginning. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, make sure you're subscribed, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The phone rang just as I was scraping the last of the meatloaf from my plate. Ellen's meatloaf. I could never make it taste quite the same without her. I glanced at the caller ID and felt my lips curve into a smile. Caitlin. Dad, how are you holding up? Her voice had that warm tone that always made my chest ache, a mix of love and the loneliness that's become my shadow. I sank into Ellen's old recliner, the leather worn smooth from years of her evening reading. Oh, you know me, sweetheart. Just finished dinner, about to watch the news. I didn't mention it was leftovers from 3 days ago, or that I've been staring at Ellen's photo for over an hour. Are you eating enough? You can always order groceries with the app one showed you. I'm fine, I said quickly, then chuckled lightly, though I did forget to turn off the burner yesterday. The coffee pot nearly boiled dry. There was a pause. I could picture her frowning, just like her mother used to. Dad, maybe we should get someone to check on you more often. Jeremy thinks I'm fine. I deflected. Anyway, how's your business trip? Phoenix, right? Yes, she said. The conference ends tomorrow. Jeremy's been doing most of client meetings while I sit through these endless presentations. She gave a little laugh, but it sounded forced. All right, Dad, I have to go. Jeremy and I have dinner with some investors. Of course. Love you, sweetheart. Love you too. Take care of yourself, okay? I heard the click, then the faint rustle of movement. She must have tossed the phone into her purse. But before I could hang up, voices came through. Jeremy, you see how he's deteriorating? Caitlin's voice, no longer warm. Cold. He forgot to turn off the stove yesterday. What if he burns the house down? Jeremy's voice came next, matter of fact. It's time for a nursing home. He's becoming a burden. The word cut through me like glass. They kept talking. The house is worth almost $1 million, Caitlin said, her tone pure calculation. With the Denver market, we could get $900,000, maybe more. Jeremy agreed. We sell, put him somewhere decent but cheap, and buy that place in Boulder with a mountain view. And then my daughter laughed. Actually, I laughed. God, Jeremy, you should have seen him tonight. So grateful just to hear from me. He has no idea we're planning this. The longer we wait, the more confused he'll get. We should strike while he still trusts us completely. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the hardwood Ellen, and I had laid with our own hands 23 years ago. I stared at her photograph. Was that disappointment in her eyes? Warning? Or just the silent knowing of someone who's already gone? The grandfather clock ticked on. The crickets sang outside in Ellen's garden. But inside, something cold and solid formed in my chest. They thought I was helpless, confused, ready to be discarded. They were wrong. I told her she'd get it, and I meant it, but the way I was going to make it work, well, that was my secret. I walked up the stairs, my hand brushing along the banister I'd sanded and stained myself years ago. Caitlin's old room waited at the top, the walls still painted in that soft buttery yellow she'd begged for on her 16th birthday. The shelves still held pictures of high school friends frozen in time, college adventures in frames she'd picked out, the little trophies from science fairs and soccer matches. This was the same room where I had once paced for hours, rocking her through nights of endless crying as a baby, where Ellen and I had leaned over that little white desk, the one I'd built perfectly to fit under the window, helping her through algebra problems she swore would end her life. But nothing hit me harder than stepping into the master bedroom. Ellen's side of the bed was exactly as she'd left it, her glass of water still on the nightstand, her bookmark resting inside a novel that would never be finished. The page forever paused. The closets I designed and built for her, perfect height, perfect fit, still held her clothes, each one faintly smelling of her favorite perfume. This was the room where we whispered about the future, where we dreamed about Caitlin's life, and where Ellen took her last breath, her hand in mine, the machines around us beeping their cruel rhythm. "Promise me they won't take advantage of you," she whispered, voice thin as paper. "You're too good, Roy. Promise me you'll take care of yourself." I had promised her. But standing there, staring at those closets, I realized I hadn't kept that promise at all. In my office, I found the old folder of construction photos Ellen had kept so carefully. There I was, 25 years younger, 50 pounds stronger, laying the foundation in the spring of '99. Ellen in a hard hat, smiling as she brought us lemonade. Her belly is just beginning to show with Caitlin. The financial papers told the story in numbers. The second mortgage, the loan for my brother, Ellen taking a part-time job just to keep us afloat. We'd eaten beans and rice for months, driven cars held together with duct tape and hope. But we built that house. Not just walls and floors, but years of sacrifice and a heartbeat of the family. And now my little girl, the one who'd taken her first steps in that kitchen, the one who'd chased fireflies in the yard I'd landscaped with my own hands. She wanted to sell it, and put me in some home like I was nothing more than a dusty chair that didn't match the decor. I pulled out Todd Fisher's business card. The edges were worn from years of handling. Caitlin and Jeremy thought I was some confused old man who'd be grateful for scraps of attention. They thought wrong. I called Todd. My hands didn't even shake. The law office was nothing fancy. The second floor of a brick building, a place for regular people with real problems. I wore my best charcoal suit, the one Ellen chose for her funeral. Todd greeted me warmly, remembering me and Ellen. He poured coffee, the smell cutting to the weight in the air. I told him everything. The phone call, the overheard conversation, their plan to sell my house, shove me into a care facility, and run off with my money. Todd listened, his pen gliding over the legal pad, his jaw tightening slightly. "Mr. Hayes, they have no legal claim to your property." "None. The house is in your name, correct?" "Yes." "Then it's yours. They can't sell it. They can't move you out. Not without your consent." Relief came first, then something sharper. "So, if I wanted to sell it myself, you could put it on the market tomorrow. It's your property, your decision." I thought of Caitlin's laugh when she called me a burden, of Jeremy's calculating tone. Maybe it's time I show them how sharp my mind really is. Todd explained the market, how strong it was, how homes in my neighborhood sold in days for more than asking. If I wanted it done before Caitlin and Jeremy returned, it could happen in less than a week. But once you sell, there's no going back, he warned. I built that house with my own hands. Every board, every nail. I know exactly what I'm doing. By the time I left, I had a plan. And for the first time in months, my hands were steady. When Caitlin's name lit up my phone, I didn't answer. Let her wonder. Let her think her old father was still playing along. The next call, I answered, warm, friendly. The perfect act. She told me about a vacation they were planning for me, a resort with medical staff, just in case. I knew exactly what it was. I told her I had a surprise for her too, and I meant it. That night, I opened my laptop. I typed, "Real estate agents, Denver." The search results lit up like ammunition. And this time, the old man was going to war. Cherry Hills, Highlands Ranch, University Hills. Every neighborhood I searched felt like a map to someone else's dream. Caitlin and Jeremy's dream. Big houses, big money. The kind of places they could already see themselves living in once they'd taken everything from me. One name kept coming up at the top of my search results. Brian Connor. I am 43 years old. Real estate hotshot. His photo was all confidence. Perfect smile, sharp suit, eyes that said I could make things happen fast. The testimonials told me everything I needed to know. Brian sold our house in 6 days. Cash buyer lined up within 48 hours. Smooth closing. No complications. Exactly what I needed. And there it was, his direct number, staring back at me. I glanced at Ellen's photo on my desk. She seemed to be watching me, her eyes asking a question I already knew the answer to. "Roy, are you sure about this?" I was sure. More sure than I'd been about anything since the day we buried her. I dialed the number. "Brian Connor, Connor Real Estate. How can I help you?" "Mr. Connor, my name is Roy Hayes. I'm interested in selling my house. Quickly. How fast can that actually happen?" His voice didn't hesitate. "With the right property and the right price? 10 days. Maybe less. I've done it before." My heart gave a hard thud in my chest. 10 days? "Absolutely," he continued. "Denver's market is hot, especially for well-kept homes in established neighborhoods. Tell me about your place." I looked around my kitchen, seeing it through a stranger's eyes. 2-story, 3,400 square feet, built in '99, Cherry Creek area, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Original owner, well-maintained, did most of the work myself. That last part seemed to get his attention. "Mr. Hayes, that's exactly what my investors look for. I could do a property assessment today, say 3 p.m. I checked the clock. Just after noon. 3 works, I said. After hanging up, the weight of what I just set in motion hit me. In 3 hours, a stranger would walk to the house Ellen and I built together and put a price tag on our memories. I cleaned like a man possessed, not because I wanted to impress him, but because I owed it to Ellen. She always insisted the house be spotless for guests. But this wasn't preparation for a guest. It felt more like an execution. The doorbell rang at exactly 3 o'clock. I smoothed my shirt, took a breath that smelled faintly of Ellen's lavender sachets. My hand trembled around the brass doorknob I'd installed myself years ago. I opened the door to my future. Brian Connor looked exactly like his picture. Mid-40s. Professional, approachable. A leather portfolio in one hand, a tablet in the other. His eyes widened as soon as he stepped inside. "Wow. Mr. Hayes, this is exactly what I was hoping to see." He took in the crown molding I'd cut by hand, the hardwood floors Ellen and I picked out together. He moved from room to room like a man inspecting treasure. "Are these floors original?" "Installed them myself in 2001, I said. 3/4-inch solid oak. Ellen wanted something that would last." At the granite counters, his hand traced the edge. "Custom install?" "Every inch. Took me 3 weekends to get the measurements right." Ellen picked the pattern. Said the gold veining reminded her of sunlight. For a moment, my voice caught. Brian worked methodically. Photos, notes, measurements. Then he turned his tablet toward me, showing recent sales. Similar homes in this area, $850 to $920,000. But with your upgrades and condition, I'd list it at $890,000. That should move fast and get you top dollar. The number spun in my head. That was more than Caitlin and Jeremy had smugly guessed when they thought I wasn't listening. He kept talking, confident, sure of himself. "I've got an investment group looking for a property like this. They pay cash. No financing delays. They could close in 10 business days. Caitlin and Jeremy would be back in 8. They'd expect their manageable old father to be right where they left him, ready to sign away his life. Instead, what's the catch?" I asked. "No catch. Cash buyers mean no bank delays. They'll do their own inspections. But frankly, this place is in better shape than most new builds." The living room felt heavier around me. This was where Caitlin had taken her first steps, where Ellen and I had hosted Christmas mornings, birthdays, lazy Sunday afternoons. When would I need to be out? Standard is 30 days after closing, but they're flexible. I thought of my daughter's syrupy voice calling me sweet while plotting to put me away. I thought of Jeremy's cold calculations. I thought of Ellen's voice telling me not to be so trusting. I looked Brian in the eye. "Let's do it." He grinned like a man who'd struck gold. "Excellent choice, Mr. Hayes. I'll call them right now." By the time he hung up, the deal was already in motion. They want to move forward immediately. Contracts by tomorrow morning. The sun through Ellen's bay window painted the room gold. For the first time since that awful phone call, I felt something return. Next morning, Brian arrived with contracts, a notary, and coffee. Sale price, $890,000. Closing, 10 business days. Minimal contingencies. I signed without hesitation. Over the next week, I lived like a man with a secret mission. Apartment hunting, calling storage facilities, choosing which of Ellen's things to keep. The days ticked down. The closing date approached. And with every sunrise, I was one step closer to freedom, and one step closer to making Caitlin and Jeremy regret underestimating me. That night, I didn't sleep much. I quietly packed a single suitcase, just the essentials, not because I was leaving right away, but because I needed to be ready for whatever came next. On the dresser sat a framed photo of Ellen. I brushed my fingers against the glass and whispered, "I hope you'd understand why I'm doing this." Friday morning arrived bright and crisp, the kind of spring day Ellen used to call Denver at its best. I put on my best suit, not the black one I wore for a funeral, but the deep navy Ellen had bought me for Caitlin's college graduation. The title company office was all polished smiles and formal paperwork. The buyers had brought an attorney, a sharp-eyed woman who triple-checked every line. Brian, my real estate agent, moved through the process like a conductor leading a symphony. Mr. Hayes, sign here, initial there. With every stroke of my pen, I felt another chain snapping loose. The deed transfer, the settlement statement, the final acknowledgement that 1247 Maple Street was no longer mine. Then came the wire confirmation, $890,000. After closing costs, it was more money than I had ever seen in my life, enough to erase Caitlin and Jeremy's little scheme before it even started. Everyone shook hands. Brian walked me to my truck, telling me, "You made the right choice, Mr. Hayes. A fresh start is sometimes exactly what we need." I drove home through streets I'd traveled for 25 years, past Caitlin's old elementary school, past the park where Ellen and I had walked every Sunday. But there was no nostalgia in me now, only freedom. I parked in the driveway and stared at the house that no longer belonged to me. The keys in my palm felt heavy, but tomorrow they belonged to strangers. Caitlin and Jeremy were coming back in 3 days, expecting to see their grateful old dad ready to be shipped off to their so-called retirement plan. Instead, they were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. Before that could happen, I needed the next step in my plan. I drove to Starbucks, pulled out my phone, and called an emergency locksmith. 2 hours later, Eddie showed up, a middle-aged guy with a van full of tools. He worked quickly, replacing the locks Ellen had chosen years ago with shiny silver ones. The old brass set had a warm, familiar click. These new ones, cold, mechanical, different. When he handed me the keys, they felt foreign in my hand, which was perfect. By that evening, I'd already called Sunset Manor Apartments, a small, quiet place for seniors. When I met Mrs. Chun, the property manager, she showed me a furnished one-bedroom. Clean, simple, nothing special. But it was mine. I signed a month-to-month lease, paid in cash, and started moving what little I'd chosen to keep. Ellen's jewelry box, our wedding photos, the novel she'd been reading before she died, her bookmark still on page 247, my engineering certificates. Everything else stayed behind. The furniture, the photo albums, even her clothes in the closet, still faintly carrying her perfume. That night, I locked the door to Maple Street for what might be the last time. In my rearview mirror, the house grew smaller and smaller until it was gone. The apartment felt like a hotel room, but it was my base now, the place I'd used to finish this plan. The next morning, I started making calls to protect every last cent of that $890,000. By Monday, I was sitting in a small bank office with a private banker named David Morrison. He listened, asked just enough questions, and promised my funds would be secure. When I walked out, I knew it. Caitlin and Jeremy would never touch a dime. And the real surprise? That was still coming. Morning coffee at Brew and Views had become my quiet ritual. Sarah, the barista, remembered my order now, black, no sugar, and even asked about my weekend. I told her it had been peaceful. She smiled, not knowing the storm I was preparing. That afternoon, I wandered through the neighborhood and stumbled upon a small park tucked between two brick buildings. Retirees fed pigeons and read newspapers on weathered benches. It felt safe, simple. Then Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. David's voice was crisp. "Mr. Hayes, your funds have cleared. The account is active." I ended the call, glanced around my small apartment, Ellen's photo watching from the nightstand, and realized something. For the first time since she'd passed, I felt in full control of my life again. That evening, I sat in a plain chair in my plain living room. No memories attached to this one. No echoes of betrayal in its cushions. Just mine. I opened my laptop, typed a mini surveillance camera into the search bar, and scrolled. This wasn't paranoia. This was preparation. Dozens of options flashed across the screen. Clunky cameras, sleek hidden devices. After half an hour of filtering, I found it a wireless camera disguised as a phone charger. Motion activated, Wi-Fi enabled, clear video, 12-hour battery. Most importantly, I could watch live from anywhere. Expedited shipping. $40 extra. Done. Next came the letter. The one they'd find when their keys stopped working. My first draft was venom, pure and raw. The second, too cold. It needed precision, like an engineer tuning the final bolt on a bridge. By the third draft, it was perfect. Firm but calm. Loving but final. Dear Caitlin and Jeremy, if you're reading this, my plan worked. I heard you talking about putting me in a nursing home. I heard you discussing how much money you'd make selling my home. Well, it's already sold. $890,000. Cash. It's in my new account, safe. Your belongings are at a storage facility on Fax Avenue. You have 30 days to get them before fees begin. I gave you everything for 42 years. You chose betrayal. I hope the lesson was worth it. Love, Dad. Thursday morning, the FedEx driver handed me a small box. The camera was lighter than I expected. Within an hour, I knew every setting, every button, every way to capture sound and movement. By afternoon, I was pulling into the driveway of my former house. The garage door opener slid me inside without a neighbor noticing. Inside, the air still carried traces of Ellen's lavender sachets, the lemon oil I'd polished the wood with for years. But it also carried something new, their scent, their clutter, their suitcases by the stairs, mail scattered across the counter. They had made themselves at home while plotting to exile me. I placed a camera charger by the front door outlet, adjusting the angle to capture the entire entryway. On my phone screen, the view was perfect, including the spot where I taped my envelope. Eye level, impossible to miss. One last touch to the mantel where Ellen's photo had always rested. It's done, sweetheart. Justice served. I locked up, checked the live feed from my car, and left. The trap was set. Friday, the day. By late afternoon, I had memorized their travel habits. Caitlin hated traffic, so they'd leave Phoenix by noon. Jeremy never sped. By 5:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Jeremy's black SUV slid into the driveway. Caitlin climbed out, stretching, looking comfortable, entitled. She dug for her keys. Inserted one. It didn't turn. Tried again. Jiggled. Frowned. That's weird. My keys aren't working, she muttered. Jeremy tried the back door. Locked. Garage remote. Dead. Panic began to bloom in his voice. These are new locks, Caitlin. This is an accident. She called my disconnected number. Nothing. Then, realizing I didn't even own a cell phone, her voice cracked. Fear was setting in. They finally found the kitchen window I'd intentionally left unlocked. Jeremy boosted her in. Moments later, the front door opened from inside, and there it was, the envelope. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. I leaned and tore my phone screen as they read. Confusion turned to shock. Shock to disbelief. Disbelief to horror. He sold the house. Her voice climbed an octave. That manipulative old. Jeremy's face twisted. Tears streaked her makeup. That money was supposed to be our future. Our future? Jeremy snapped. You should have handled this better, Caitlin. She turned on him, venomous. You're the one who said he was a burden. You pushed to the nursing home. Well, guess what? Now we're homeless. Our lease is up next week. The irony was delicious. They were in my living room, arguing about homelessness, the exact fate they'd planned for me. Caitlin demanded they call a lawyer. Jeremy laughed bitterly. With what money? I lost my job months ago. You barely cover the car payments. The rest spilled out his unemployment, his shame. She went pale, realizing the truth. No house, no inheritance, no savings, and a husband with no job prospects. How could he be so cruel? She whispered. The same way you were when you called him a burden. Jeremy shot back. The old man outplayed us. They collapsed onto my old furniture, defeated. I ended the feed. I'd seen enough. In my apartment kitchen, I uncorked a bottle of Ellen's favorite Bordeaux, one we'd saved for a special occasion that never came. I poured a glass, raised it toward her photo. To you, my love justice served. The wine was smooth, warm. Victory had a taste. As the Denver skyline glowed gold in the setting sun, I thought about them, sitting in my old house, drowning in the reality they created. For the first time in years, I felt free, no longer anyone's burden. My life, my rules. Roy Hayes had left the building, and he wasn't coming back. Now you've seen what could happen, but could it happen to you? If this made you think twice about what's possible, there's plenty more waiting for you here. Subscribe now, and let's see how far down the rabbit hole you're willing to go.